Good morning, everybody. Happy Easter to you. You know, I was sitting in my chair earlier looking at the audience, all of you, the people in the balconies and spread across the main floor, the seats are filled. I thought this is just a fine, fine day to take up an offering. With a lot of you, it's a once-a-year chance. So. Anyway, here we are to celebrate Easter. The question is why? Why are millions of people all over the world celebrating Easter this morning to celebrate a man named Jesus that lived 2,000 years ago? I mean, who was this man? What did he do to have such an impact on this world that 2,000 years later, more people are following his message and taking his direction than all the people that lived in the world during his time? It's phenomenal when you think about it. Well, we know that Jesus' parents were Joseph and Mary. He had several brothers and sisters. His father was a carpenter, and Jesus apprenticed with him at an early age. And as tradition would have it, Jesus was to take over that family carpentry business and provide support for the rest of the family. And all went well until he was 28 years old. His cousin John the Baptist came to town, and John was kind of a wild and woolly guy. Some people said that he was crazed. And he came to town prophesizing that the world is coming to an end. And if you want to be saved, you need to come down to the river and be baptized by me. So Jesus went down to the river, and he watched all these people lining up enthusiastically as they went into the river, and John gently laid them into the water and saved their soul. Jesus was so moved that he decided that he would do it himself. And John baptized him. When he came up out of the water, the sun was shining bright in his eyes. A white dove flew across his vision, and he was different. There was just something different about him. He didn't feel like his old self. And so he took off, all by himself, went into the wilderness to try to figure out who he was and what life was all about. Now, while he was there, he had many visions, he had many revelations and many insights. But what he came to him was that he was living in a world where the people were really downtrodden. There's a lot of misery, there's a lot of sadness, and mood was very sullen. And he didn't know why. They say he spent 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness, and during that time he came up with a cause for the people's suffering and also a cure. He came out of the wilderness, embarked upon a ministry, traveling town to town, passing on his message. Now during that time, traveling ministers weren't uncommon. There were hundreds of people just like Jesus traveling around from town to town, talking to whoever would listen. They all have their own little twist on what life is all about. And so once again, the question is, why did Jesus, a person with no formal education, 30 years old, one of hundreds, why did his ministry have such an impact and effect on all the rest of them did? His ministry lasted for just a little over 1 year. Now think about that. His ministry lasted for just a little over 1 year. He died when he was around 31 or 32 years old. And when he's arrested and crucified, the vast majority of his followers abandoned him. Now that didn't sound like a success story. It didn't sound like it would have any impact at all in the world. But the big difference was, Jesus came out of the wilderness with a plan, with the secret, with the formula for a successful life. His cousin John the Baptist and all the other preachers were talking about doom and gloom, misery and suffering. And their message was the only way you're going to get out of that is for the world to come to an end so you can move on to heaven. But Jesus came out with a positive approach to life, and he very boldly told the people, the kingdom of heaven isn't coming. It's quite a statement in those days. Everybody was waiting for it. He said, the kingdom of heaven isn't coming because it's already here. It's just a matter of how you look at life. He then gave them 3 principles that they could live their life by. 3 very, very simple principles. Now it's interesting that there's been over millions and millions of books written about Jesus. So many books that if we stacked them in this room from the floor to the ceiling, they couldn't all fit in. If we all collectively decided to read those books, we couldn't get it done in not only 1 lifetime, but 3 lifetimes. Yet at the same time, Jesus' message was so simple. 3 simple little principles that he presented to the people. In the Gospels, which are the first 4 books of the Bible, or the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, over and over and over again, they record Jesus, his message, and his ministry. It all comes down to this central theme of this is the way you have to approach life. And the first principle was peace. You got to do something to get to peace with your existence. You didn't come here to be miserable. You didn't come here to be fearful. You didn't come here to fight with life, which is too big to change anyway. You just got to be at peace with it. Find peace with the process. You can get angry. There's things we like. There's things we don't like. You can have bad days. All sorts of different moods can come into play. But there's no reason to get upset about it. Just be at peace with the way your spirit travels. Peace is the path that will lead you through those fleeting shadows of life that bring with them trials and tribulations and challenges and problems. Peace is the path that will lead you through those fleeting shadows, and just like the fog and just like the mist disappears when the bright sunlight shines through, your problems will vanish as well. There's not a single thing, in any challenge, any problem, there's not a substance there for you to fear. Fleeting shadows of life. Peace with the process with the first principle.